Thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity. It's interesting because I was new to this. I was not born in the Sai family, as you can imagine. And it started in 1992 when he appeared in my dream. I had no idea who he was. I had never seen the form. I had never heard the name. And he just asked me very nicely, come to India. And of course, I didn't react in the beginning. And then he kept appearing in my meditation. Saying, come to India, come to India, come to India. I said, okay, this is interesting. And maybe I'll go to India, because India was not on my scope. I was doing business in Europe. And then I met more and more people who told me that there was this spiritual master in India called Sai Baba. I said, oh, that's interesting. And then Qigong master I worked with said, like, oh, the highest incarnation on the planet is in India. His name is Sai Baba. So I kept hearing the name, but never a picture. And then I was actually having tea at a friend's house, and they had a life-size picture of Swami in the living room. And I asked, like, oh, who is this? This is the person and from my meditation. And they're like, oh, this is Sai Baba. I said, oh, this is Sai Baba. Well, he has asked me to come to India. And they were like, oh, you have to go to India. You have to go to India. But then it took a couple of years with a lot of canceled flights and other, leelas, I guess you call them, until I was here in January of 1997. And I had repeated dreams about him. I saw myself in Sai Kuan Hall and dressed in white with thousands of people. And I actually had dreams of Darshan. And then when I came, I relived the same situations that I had dreamt. So that was sort of interesting. And of course, I was in graduate school for philosophy besides my business, and I was very interested in the teachings, because the Indian culture with Darshan and Bhajan and Vibhuti, that was new to me, but I found it interesting. But the teachings about the values, love all, serve all, that was really what sparked my interest. And then I read everything I could get my hands on. Back in those days, you could read during Darshan, or before Darshan. That was nice. And so I read everything I could get my hands on. And I don't want to say I approached Swami from an intellectual perspective, but the teachings sparked my interest more than the religious part, the rituals that people have in the beginning. Now I'm all into Darshan, and I like pujas and all the cultural aspects that go with it. But back then it was sort of from a philosophical interest.
So how was your first darshan?
Well, overwhelming. I sat in first row, and I thought it was natural since I was new, and people say, oh, that's a great blessing. And of course he didn't look at me, and I didn't feel anything on it, but I felt very comfortable. People had warned me, it was like 97 was not that bad, but people had warned me, like, oh, if you go to India, you're going to have a culture shock and everything is different. I like traveling. I like different cultures. So when I stepped off the plane, and back then it was Bombay, and I heard the sounds and I smelled the smells and everything, I was like, my first thought was home. And I had no problems with anything that was different. Back then, most of the ashram was sand, and you had to line up for everything for hours, and didn't bother me at all. I slept in the shed with a friend, and I just had a good time. It was just, it felt right. There was no concern. And we got up very early and lined up, and we got first row many times. And the first real experience I had with Swami, and I love it because I can remember it as if it was yesterday. I was sitting in the first line, facing his chair, and he came down the aisle on the other side, and I saw him from about 5 meters away. He materialized Vibhuti, and I'd never seen that before. I was like, wow, this is interesting. And I could feel the energy change a little bit. There was like a shift in the feeling and in the air, whatever you want to call it. And then he looked over to my side, but he kept walking on the other side. And then apparently he made, with the Vibhuti he had in his hand, he made a little ball, and he flicked it from the hip right and hit me right there. And I felt my head explode. And I mean, just hitting me right there over the aisle from, like, I would say 4 meters away, that's a small miracle because the Vibhuti is not very aerodynamic.
Vibhuti Bullet.
Exactly. And I felt my head explode as if like the universe opened up in my head. It was quite intense. I was calm, and then everybody around me went crazy. I had 3 Sevadars holding me down. I had Indian people around me starting to want to touch my feet. I had 2 foreigners, I don't know from which country, looking for the Vibhuti. And I was like, what on earth is going on here? And I was just sitting there enjoying this like supernova, I call it, in my brain. And everybody around me was crazy. And then as Swami was on the same level with me, he looked at me, he smiled like, and he actually winked. I'll never forget that. He winked his left eye, I guess. And that was my first big experience. And I felt touched, but I couldn't put it in words. I just knew something just changed, something happened. And then I got a couple of days of break, of sitting in the back, not in first row. And that was quite interesting. And I'm sure whatever I needed on that trip, because I had so many dreams, and I went into Mandir for meditation, and I had so many, I don't know, visions, dreams, feelings, experiences. So I was fine.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you got to receive, whatever is needed for your spiritual growth, it will definitely happen some way or the other.
Exactly. And and I mean, I've heard stories about like how people get scolded during an interview, and how people like an interview, of course, is somehow a big thing, but it might not be what you want it to be. For example, my good friend who introduced me to Sai Baba, she came here, she had one question. She got an interview. He just looked at her, put his hand on the shoulder and said, yes. And that was it. She was happy. That was the entire interview. Just yes, go. And of course, an interview would have been very strange, because I had like tons of spiritual questions and how this and that. And I knew that I would not get a lecture on philosophy in an interview. So I stuck to the books. And that was that.
So how many days were you there?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks. 2.5 weeks. And then everybody told me I should stay. But I had my business partner at home who needed my help, so I said no. And I, of course, I had the desire to stay. You know, it was cold and dark in Germany. We had snow in January. It's January, February are the coldest month we have in the year. And here it's nice. You know, you can walk barefoot and all that. But I didn't stay. I said I'd rather come back.
So when you were here, were there any festivals during that time?
Well, of course, we missed Christmas and New Year's. And just as we left, there were thousands, I think 5,000-6,000 Chinese from Singapore and Hong Kong pouring in for Chinese New Year. And that was a big celebration. That was I would say that was the biggest celebration I'd ever been part of myself. And I was just amazed of how many people from all over the world. And, you know, back then, everybody had to wear a scarf with, like, their country. So you could see, like, every country, in almost every country in the world. And I was so impressed. I said, like, how come these people come here? And what are they doing here? And why are they coming? And so that was, life-changing.
So when you stepped into Mumbai itself, you said, you know, you felt like home. How did it feel when you came into Prasanthi Nilayam?
It's like coming home. It's like your driveway. And then I drive over here, and if I step into Prasanthi, it's like my living room. You know, so I'm getting closer to home. And so that is that. And back then, when I stepped into the ashram, I always felt my feet tingle and like energy going up my legs. I always knew that that was the point, was, you know, like I'm home, something is happening. But that is different now, because, like, for example, this time, I stopped counting how many times I've been here, but I stopped counting at 13 times. So I thought 13 is a lucky number. But now it's just like when I drive in the Gopuram gate, it's like my spine is vibrating and my head is pulsing, and, you know, all those funny feelings, you know, like, okay, energy has changed. And I feel just as happy now without his physical form Maybe even more so because everything's more relaxed. Back then it was Darshan, interview, and everybody was going crazy. And now it's just like you go there, you sit there, you open up, and you get what you need. And I make it a point to come back every year to recharge. Although now that I'm an office bearer, when I come here, it's not much of a recharge because I'm busy. I have meetings, I have recordings, I have more meetings, I have conventions, I have speeches. But somehow it doesn't bother me.
Beautiful. So after 97, you kept coming every year?
Actually, no. In 98, I went to Whitefield, and I had you can read it in the special edition of Sanatana Sarati, a little bit of my story. I had a bad head injury from martial arts, and I was not well. I could not focus. I would have headaches. Meditation would give me a headache. Reciting the Gayatri mantra would give me a headache. And my doctors at home said, well, yeah, you had a concussion. Just give it time, drink water, relax, don't stress. But I couldn't concentrate. And I was in grad school for philosophy at the time, so I needed to focus. I needed to read. I needed to put out things, papers, exams, that sort of thing. And I was worried because I felt stupid. And it's not a good feeling. So I was in Whitefield, and like one day doing Darshan, there was very few people, very casual. He kept walking, and again, I sat front row. And one day he looked at me at Darshan, and I felt like my brain was being massaged from the inside. Terrible pain for a few seconds, and then it was gone, and my eyes cleared and everything. And I was like, okay, I came for the healing, and I got my healing. And after that, my head was fine.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. So that's
instant healing.
You could call it that, yeah. Of course he makes you wait. You come to Whitefield and you're like, hey, Swami, I have a headache, please heal me. And like the first 4 days, he just, doesn't look, doesn't care, didn't even come to Darshan. I was sitting there, I said, okay. And then I heard he's gone this and he's gone there and he's gone to put a party and he's not going to put a party. So at some point I just surrendered. I said, okay, fine, I'm here. I'm not going to put a party. I'll stay here. If this is meant to happen, it will happen. And then he came back from wherever he went and had a very intense darshan. And I will never forget, it was a mixture of having your brain massaged and having like lemon squeezed on top. It was really weird, uncomfortable, like getting a tooth pulled or something. It was uncomfortable in the moment, but after 5 minutes, everything calmed down. My head was clear. The headache was gone. That was the first real, I would say, healing experience I had, just from a look or from being here. So that was nice. And that was also the darshan where he told me to do yoga.
So which year was that?
98.
98. Wow. The next year.
Yeah.
So Vibhuti Bullet happens in 97, 98. You have a miraculous healing.
Yeah.
And your visits to Prasanthi continues.
Yes. And then he actually told me that, I said, oh, Swami, I want to come back. He said, no, you're not going to come for a while. You have work to do back home. And he said, okay, how long can I not come? And he said, I won't tell you because you'll be sad. I said, but I want to know. So he said, 10 years. And I got sad. And I said, okay, now I'm not sad because he told me. And exactly 9.5 years later, I'm back in Prasanthi. And it was fine because I'm kind of funny that way. Whenever I feel stressed or when something goes wrong or when I feel a little sick or, you have this feeling like, oh, you should go to Prasanthi, relax, have darshan and everything. Within 3 days, he gives me a dream that I'm in Prasanthi. And I wake up in the morning and I feel as if I had been to Prasanthi. And my desire to come here is gone. That's very practical and very good for the environment.
Wow.
Yeah, so that sustained me through the 10 years. And then, 2007 I was here with friends.
So because you could not come to Prasanthi, he took Prasanthi to you all those 10 years.
Well, we met in the dream space or whatever you call it.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was quite interesting. And also, I had some family trouble. My mother was very sick, and he appeared in a dream once, and he said, "Bring me your mother." And I said, "My mother has dementia. There's no way I can take her to Prasanthi." So I tortured my brain. I said, "Okay, how do I can get?" So, and I even in my Sai center in Hamburg, I I asked two Sai sisters, one of them a nurse, I said, if I pay for your trip, would you be willing to, because as a man, I can't not take my mother on the ladies' side and everything. So I was like, that was my last straw. I said, if I pay for your trip, will you take care of my mother on the ladies' side? And they said, no, sorry. So I couldn't bring my mother. And then she died. And I was like, okay, Swami, sorry, I couldn't fulfill your request. And then I had this flash in my meditation. I took the blanket in which my mother had died, brought it to Prasanthi, burned it with a puja on the Chitravati banks, and then he appeared in my dream and said, your mother is here, all's good. And I cried. And he played a game on me because now she's gone, but for a couple of years when I walked by the elderly sheds on the, like, I don't know what that's called, but you know what I'm talking about, right? There was always one lady sitting there, very nice lady, who looked exactly like my mother, but with dark skin. I mean, you know, dark hair, my mother had blonde hair, but the face, the nose, I was just speechless. Several times, like a couple of, like 5-6 times on every trip, the lady would sit there. And of course I wouldn't talk to her, I would just say Sai Ram, and she would smile at me and say Sai Ram, and that's it. And now she's gone. But for a couple of trips, it was unbelievable. But I mean, like a mirror image of my mother, just dark skin. So I guess that was the confirmation that she is here in some form.
Wow.
Yeah. So
he has his own ways of giving you solace and giving you confirmations.
Absolutely. Yeah. And all this, of course, builds a very strong rapport in who he is, what he says, what he does. So it's very easy. And I'm sure there's a lot of personal experiences that a lot of people have that helps you to engage in him and say, okay, this is something, this is worth, this is not normal, this doesn't happen every day. So there's some value in this, some interest, you know, you can trust him, you can believe in him. Because to tell you the truth, as a German, as a Christian, this whole idea of having him being a God incarnate, that's a tough pill to swallow for Christians. But after some time, I said, yeah, why not? You know, because, I mean, Jesus is the Son of God, not God himself. So why wouldn't God? I mean, if the Son of God, prophets, whatever you want to call them, several religions have them. So messengers, you know, depending on your definition, why wouldn't God incarnate? I mean, he can do whatever he wants, right? So that was very interesting. And also the part about that they respect all the religions and they focus on the unity and they celebrate all the different religious festivities, I found very attractive. And if you, like, my favorite saying from Swami is love all, serve all, because I think that encapsulates everything. It's very simple, everybody can follow. And for Christianity, it's very fitting, because essentially that would sum up the teaching of Jesus the same way. But that was that. But I remember 2010 Christmas was amazing because we had the Christmas choir. And if I remember correctly, we had 800 people from about 150 countries. There were people from places that weren't even countries. They like had a security pass of some kind because they had no passports. And we were singing and all kinds of Christmas carols. And I thought to myself, like, if 800 people from all over the world, even from non-Christian countries, I mean Indians, but also Muslims and Buddhists from Thailand and all over the place, come together to sing Christmas carols and to celebrate Christmas, which of course with Jesus and the Advent and the good message of, you know, rejoice, and come together to sing Christmas carols in Prasanthi, we have a chance as humanity. I think so. Because you really see that there is one religion, one caste, one humanity, you know, if you let it happen. Yeah, and then of course Samadhi happened, and I wasn't surprised because he sort of left his body around Easter, which is the other Christian holiday where they had the crucifixion, about death and transformation and those concepts. And I was sad, of course. And what helped me was I had this recording. I think it was the 1008 names. And I just kept playing that in my car, in my house, in my office, in my head. That helped with the grief. But he kept, I think, in over 6 months, at least 3 times, he came into my dream and said, "Don't be sad, I'm still here." And when I came back to Prasanthi for the first time in 2014, I felt him just as present and felt the ashram just as alive, and even more so, because I feel and my wife and a lot of people I talk to, we all feel the same. It's like, it's as if he is the ashram. It's kind of funny, but it's like he's all over. He's like he's on the ground, he's in every, in the house, and we all, and a lot of people. Of course, my position, I talk to a lot of people from all over Europe and all over the world, and everybody I talk to agrees that we feel that the energy in the ashram is getting stronger. For example, I was here in July for the Center Leadership Conference, and it was amazing. The conference was amazing, but the energy in the ashram. Now I'm back for the birthday, and I feel even in the 5-6 months, the vibration, the energy has somehow increased. And I know people can't have Darshan in interviews in the old form, but it doesn't matter, because you come here and you get what you need. Time, space, or concepts, and he's here and he can do whatever he wants, and he will do to people whatever they need. And sometimes he has a different sense of timing than we do. Sometimes he really makes you wait, and sometimes you don't get what you want. But my experience, eventually you will understand that what you got is better, equal or better than what you wanted, because he does have a different perspective on things. But you have to let go. You have to be, you can't like say, okay, I want this, but I'm not letting go of that. So, either you let him do things no matter what, or you don't. And many times he let me sort of have my will, and I realized, I should have gone the other way. So it's nice, but he helps you anyway. So like there's no punishment. That doesn't put you down. It's like, okay, you didn't listen to me, so I'm going to ignore you for 6 months or something, or going to have you losses in your business or something like that. It's always like, see? I was like, yes, I see. So, and this trust part is very, very essential. It takes a long time. For me, it took a long time. Some people do it quicker, but that's just who I am. But maybe if it takes longer, it grows stronger. That's how I like to think of it. And with all that experience, for me, it is easy to keep going and spread the message. And of course, Mahasamadhi took some people away from Swami in Europe. Then this other people down the road that I won't mention took some people. And I said, fine, let them go. Let them have their experience. I'm not going. And so we are fewer than before, but we are growing. And the people we do have are very nice, very devoted, and it's a pleasure working with them, not only in Europe, but all over the Global Council and the different zone chairs I know and all the people I meet here. I don't want to judge. It's not a different kind, but it's just, it feels more family-like. It's less of an organization with a structure and everything, but everybody is really nice and the people are nice with each other. So there's a different feeling about this, and I like it. Everybody's nice, and if I understand correctly, Swami repeatedly said quality is more important than quantity. For example, when I go into negotiations, now not so much, but back then when I was active in business, I had this intuitive idea of win-win or no deal. I would not make certain compromises. I would not sell myself to, I would not sell my values to get a contract or something like that. It was just, luckily I didn't have to, but I just had certain principles, and I said, like, no, this is what we're going to do. I always treated my people nicely. I paid them well. I respected customers. And love all, serve all is a good business strategy in the long run. Short run, some people, you cut corners, they make profits. Okay, Sairam, let them. But in the long run, as I say, a lie doesn't last. And unhappy, you sell to a customer once, you may be happy, but he's not coming back. If he has a complaint and you don't take him seriously, he's going away. It's simple. I mean, to me, it is so obvious that it almost pains me to see that people don't do that. And I took that into my consulting. I basically took my customers through the values. I said, I didn't call it that, I admit, but certain practices. I said, this is actually beneficial. I said, no, this costs money. I said, trust me, you'll benefit in the long run. And most of them agreed. So that's the practical part, not only in business, but in your personal life, just certain things that you don't do. You don't get into fights, you're not angry, you don't push people. And I wish more people would do that, because right now I think humanity is at a crucial state. We have wars and aggression and separation, and religious conflicts are coming up, environmental issues. So we have to work together to solve these. And the perfect basis, in my opinion, is the human values. Because every person wants to be loved and respected, and nobody wants war. Nobody wants to be cheated and lied to. I mean, they say that, it doesn't matter. No. The values are fundamentally good, and it makes a good atmosphere, it makes good business, it makes good family, it makes good relationships, and I think every person should follow the human values. During the Center Leadership Conference, when we had the opening ceremony with the flags, my wife was a flag bearer, and some of the people, I won't say who, they actually cried when they saw it. And I never thought that a few countries, I don't remember, like 30, 40 countries, coming together with the flag and the ceremony, everybody, the flag bearers, the Vedam chanters, the visitors, the spectators, the office bearers, they were all touched in one way or another. And we talked about this, and we were completely surprised that coming together as a global council, as you said, bringing humanity together. That's one of the reasons why I took the job, even though I knew in Europe it would be a little difficult. But I like this global council idea. We have to solve problems globally, and the best way is to bring people together on some common grounds, common values, and a common vision. And you can see it in Prasanthi every day, in the canteens, doing Darshan for festivals. Now we're planning the centenary celebration with people from all over the world, and different people with different backgrounds come together, and they work together, and it actually works, across all religious and cultural and time zone differences. It's amazing to see. It can actually be done if we want to. But I'll give my everything for this. And we're growing in Europe. We're growing worldwide. We're on the right track. I feel that we have His blessing. We have His energy. And hopefully we'll reach more and more people to change, transform, and support us.
Wow. So we are looking forward to a glorious centenary celebrations and more people experiencing this.
We have so many things planned. Hold on to your hats. It's going. If we only, the program right now we're planning is absolutely mind-blowing. If we achieve half of what we are planning, it would be amazing. So watch out for more.
Awesome. It was absolutely a delight talking to you, Mr. Phil, and I think you shared your heart and not only told us about how it felt to have Bhagawan enter your heart, but also what happens when he enters your heart. And I think that's a very noble story.
Oh, I can tell you that now that I'm the zone chair for Europe, I have the pleasure of traveling around, and it is really, if you go to a Sai center, whether it's Valencia in Spain or Barcelona or Merton in London, of course people like me, they invite me and they're nice to me, but it feels like a little bit of Prasanthi. You know, I'm so happy that the people decided to be with the Global Council, that they continue to do the good work and they create the same atmosphere and energy. They're nice with each other. They do projects. They really work on living Swami's mission, and it works. You know, if you go to a place for the first time, you have a certain, if you go there every day, you don't feel it. But if you go there just for the first time and you sit there, and Valencia, for example, is a rather small center, about 10 to 20 people. But I sat there and their bhajans were so powerful. I felt I was in Sai Kulwant Hall. I had the same feeling. I said, wow, Swami is here. This is really amazing.
It is just love exchange.
I love exchange. And it's not so much exchange, but people are doing what Swami wants them to do.
Yeah. I think uniting through Sai love, and I think that is the most beautiful thing.
That's a good way of putting it.
That unity leads you to purity, leads you together to divinity, and I think that is what Bhagawan wanted.
And that's why every center I visited in Europe so far gets an A+ for being a center and a Sai sort of lighthouse, and we just keep doing what we're doing.
Wow! Keep creating lighthouses.
We will create lighthouses all over Europe.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sai Ram.